This video goes over connecting a Heros Technology SCR Preselector-CAT device to a Flex 5000 radio. So turn this around, and I've got a couple of BNC cables. So we got the RF output from the device going to the RX in loop, and then the RX out loop here is going to antenna 1 on the back of the preselector. And then I've got the 12-volt line and a USB cable plugged into the PC. So, and then on the front I selected USB, so it's in USB mode, so that way USB can manage the frequency you're on. Alright, so we've got PowerSDR running, and we turned on the preselector. So the first thing that comes up here is that it wants a driver because we got a problem here. It's got a yellow, it needs a driver. Well, I went to the Heros Technology website, I went to the downloads, and I downloaded the drivers for the SCR Preselector 2020. So I dragged it to the desktop here, and I unzipped it, and then we're going to update the driver, and we're going to browse on my computer, and I would browse, I go to the desktop, and so this desktop, and then I navigate to that folder, and then inside that folder there's another folder, and that's got the USB signed drivers. I go to that folder, I click OK, I click next, it installs the drivers, and now instead of being an other device up here, it's now a COM device, and it picked COM3, one of the unused COM numbers, because I've got a whole bunch, because I use VSP Manager for these other virtual ports, which you need for DDutil and for other things, but we don't need VSP Manager or any other virtual ports to do this portion now. From COM3, we're going to connect it to DDutil. So I'm going to open up DDutil, and I'm going to open up setup, the form, okay, and then so it's communicating with PowerSDR already. That part we've already set up DDutil from the this COM5, and I've got a virtual serial port with COM4. So when I open up the setup PowerSDR, I put COM4 over here. So that allows me to talk to DDutil, half-second interval, and what I do is I always make sure I've got this allow Kenwood, the AI command, and TS2000. Alright, so now we go to other, and then this part makes it fairly easy. We just go navigate to COM3. We don't need any virtual COM pairs or whatever, and then we enable, and as soon as we enable we get a panel right here. I can close this, done with it. So now this is the Heros panel, and right now it's not, there would be a frequency here if it was communicating. The way you get it to communicate is just move frequency, change bands, and click on that a couple times. Alright, so now, there we go. Took a while for it to establish. So now it's got the frequency that we're on this little Heros panel, and you can bypass, and you can hear the clicking. You can bypass the filter or not, but the first thing you want to do, because we put it in the RX loop, is I'm going to click on here to open up the antenna panel, and you want to make sure that this loop is on. If I uncheck that, then you're not using the preselector, you're not using the RX1 loop. Like I showed you, I had the BNC connectors in there. So you want to definitely leave this checked. Now if you use expert, you can choose which bands, you can actually choose which bands you want it to be enabled, which you don't. I'm using simple, so all the bands will use this unless I go in here and turn it off. But this puts the preselector in the loop, receive only, which is perfect. You don't have to worry about getting any kind of antenna switch for it. So now it's just a matter of whether I want to bypass it or not. That's bypassed, and that's in line. You got a low noise amplifier, which I can enable, and you can clearly see that amplifies. I turned it off. There's an attenuator here, variable attenuator, but it's reading the frequency. So if I change bands, there it goes. Now it's showing the 80 meter band. Now this does have an AM broadcast band filter, so anything below 160 meters is going to be filtered out with this preselector in line, meaning you can't use 630 meters with this filter in line. You'd have to bypass it. So now you just simply minimize the DDutil when it's online, and then you'll notice that the display actually tracks the frequency you're on. So that's the other indication that you know it's tracking. Now the only downside of this is that you want to leave DDutil. You need to leave it minimized. Don't kill it, just minimize it. And don't disconnect the USB cable. And you should be fine. But it is working.